Ever wondered how your frequent flying affects our environment? Imagine the invisible threat that hangs in the balance every time an airplane takes off. The roar of the engines, the burning of the fuel, the emission of gases into our atmosphere. It's a different kind of pollution, one that is often overlooked in our daily conversations about climate change: aviation pollution. Aviation is a major contributor to our environmental woes. Aircraft engines emit gases, noise, and particulates from fossil fuel combustion that pose both global and local environmental concerns. The jet airliners we've grown so accustomed to using for our travels significantly impact climate change by emitting carbon dioxide and other pollutants. You might think, but haven't we made advancements in technology? Aren't our planes more fuel efficient now? Yes, they are. There's been a 70% increase in fuel efficiency from 1967 to 2007. But here's the rub. Despite this marked improvement, CO2 emissions per passenger kilometer have only decreased by 47% since 1990. It's like trying to empty an ocean with a bucket. We're making progress, but it's simply not enough. In 2018, global commercial aviation operations accounted for 2.4% of all CO2 emissions. That's a staggering amount when you consider the scale of global carbon emissions. We're talking about millions of tons of CO2 released into our atmosphere, all from our quest to reach the skies. Yet, the aviation industry is not standing still. They're making efforts to reduce their environmental footprint. Some of these include improving fuel economy, optimizing air traffic control, utilizing biofuels, emissions trading, and even transitioning to electric or hydrogen-powered aircraft. The industry aims to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050. But the road ahead is long and filled with challenges. As we jet off to our next destination, it's important to pause and consider the invisible threat we're contributing to. So, how much pollution are we talking about here? Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the numbers behind the smoke in our next scene. In 2018, global commercial aviation operations accounted for 2.4% of all CO2 emissions. That's right, 2.4% might not seem like a lot, but consider this. That's the equivalent of around 815 million metric tons of carbon dioxide. That's more than the entire country of Germany produced in the same year. And what's even more alarming? The fuel that powers these flights is still leaded. Yes, you heard it right. The aviation industry continues to use leaded gasoline, a fuel that most of us thought was left in the dustbin of history. Leaded gasoline has been banned in cars for decades due to its harmful effects on human health and the environment. Yet, it continues to be the fuel of choice for most of the world's aircraft. You might also be surprised to learn that aviation engines don't have the same emission standards as cars. There are no catalytic converters, no diesel particulate filters, or DPFs to help reduce the amount of pollutants that are released into the atmosphere. These engines are, in essence, free to emit as much pollution as they like, with little to no checks on their environmental impact. But let's not just focus on CO2. Aircraft engines also emit a cocktail of other harmful pollutants, including nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides, and particulate matter. These substances not only contribute to climate change but also have a significant impact on local air quality, leading to a range of health problems for people living near airports. And while it's true that the aviation industry has made strides in improving fuel efficiency, a 70% increase from 1967 to 2007, CO2 emissions per passenger kilometer have only decreased by 47% since 1990. That's simply not enough. The numbers paint a clear and disturbing picture. The aviation industry, as it currently operates, is contributing significantly to our planet's environmental woes. It's a situation that's simply unsustainable. But what does this mean for our planet? Aviation emissions have steadily increased over the years, raising serious concerns about their impact on climate change. From soaring above the clouds to touchdown on the tarmac, every flight leaves an invisible trail of emissions that contribute to our warming planet. Air travel has become such a routine part of our lives, we rarely pause to consider its global implications. But let's take a moment to do just that. Jet airliners significantly impact climate change, emitting carbon dioxide and other pollutants. Despite a 70% increase in fuel efficiency from 1967 to 2007, CO2 emissions per passenger kilometer have only decreased by 47% since 1990. In 2018, global commercial aviation operations accounted for 2.4% of all CO2 emissions. That might not seem like much, but remember, every bit counts when it comes to the health of our planet. But it's not just about the carbon footprint. Aviation pollution also brings local effects that are hard to ignore. Noise pollution from airports and flight paths disrupts communities, affecting both mental and physical health. The fine particulates from aircraft engines can contribute to air quality issues, posing risks to respiratory health. Now, you may be wondering, with all this talk of pollution, shouldn't there be some regulations in place? Indeed, there are, but aviation fuel still contains lead, and there are no universal emission standards like those for cars. There's also a lack of aviation engines with catalytic converters or DPF filters, which are common in other vehicles to reduce harmful emissions. This is the gravity of the situation. An industry that connects us globally is also contributing to a global crisis. It's a problem that's been flying under the radar for too long, but now that we're aware, we must ask ourselves, are there any solutions to this looming crisis? The industry aims to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050. This ambitious goal, set against the backdrop of steadily increasing aviation emissions, underscores the urgency and necessity of collective action. In the quest to reduce aviation's environmental footprint, a multi-pronged approach is crucial. One of the key strategies involves improving fuel economy. By enhancing engine efficiency and aerodynamics, we can significantly cut down on the amount of fuel consumed during flights. This not only reduces CO2 emissions, but also has the added benefit of cost savings for airline companies. Next on the list is optimizing air traffic control. Think of it as a sophisticated dance in the sky, where every move counts. By streamlining flight paths and minimizing the time aircraft spend idling on runways, we can drastically lessen the amount of harmful gases released into the atmosphere. Another promising solution lies in harnessing the power of biofuels. These renewable energy sources, derived from organic matter, hold the potential to replace conventional jet fuel. However, the challenge lies in scaling up production to meet the demands of a rapidly growing industry. Emissions trading, a market-based approach to controlling pollution, is another tactic under consideration. This system allows companies to buy and sell emission allowances, incentivizing them to reduce their carbon footprint. Perhaps the most exciting prospect is the transition to electric or hydrogen-powered aircraft. Although still in their infancy, these technologies represent a clean, sustainable alternative to fossil fuel-powered engines. The journey towards their widespread adoption may be long and fraught with challenges, but the potential payoff is colossal. Each of these strategies, while impactful on its own, is most effective when implemented in concert. It's a collective effort, requiring the commitment and cooperation of all stakeholders, from airline companies and engineers to policymakers and passengers. But can we afford to wait until 2050? Every flight we take contributes to the problem. A sobering fact, isn't it? Yet it's precisely this realization that is the first step in our collective journey towards a cleaner, more sustainable future. The reality is, the aviation industry, as it stands today, has a significant environmental footprint. But it doesn't have to be this way. There are steps we can take and choices we can make that can help mitigate this impact. Let's start with the power of choice. When planning your next trip, consider airlines that prioritize eco-friendly practices. These might include those that optimize their flight paths for fuel efficiency, invest in newer, more efficient aircraft, or even those that offset their emissions through various environmental initiatives. Go a step further and think about the frequency of your travels. Could that business meeting be just as effective over a video call? Could that weekend getaway be to a local destination rather than a far-off city? Small decisions like these can have a big impact when made collectively. Next, we can support research into sustainable aviation fuels. These are alternatives to traditional jet fuel that have the potential to significantly reduce the aviation industry's carbon emissions. They could be produced from a variety of sources, from used cooking oil to agricultural waste, and even algae. Let's champion the scientists, engineers, and entrepreneurs who are working tirelessly to bring these innovative solutions to market. Lastly, we can advocate for stricter emission standards for aircraft. Just as we have standards for cars and trucks, it's high time we had them for planes too. This could involve everything from implementing stricter fuel efficiency standards to mandating the use of catalytic converters or particulate filters in aircraft engines. Remember, each one of us has a role to play in this. It may seem like a daunting task to take on, but as the saying goes, The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and that step starts with you. The choice is yours. Will you fly into a cleaner future,